welcome to Up Close. My guest today, Wang Luoyong, is a celebrated actor in both the U.S. and China and is famous for being the first Chinese on Broadway. Thank you so much for being here again, Wang Luoyong.
Thank you.
I say being here again because actually it was maybe what, 3-4 years ago you're on Up Close. At that time we had the studio audience, and I still remember you gave us these lessons on how to speak English,
right.
And we used a cork in our mouth.
Right, I remember that. That was like my first time to enter the States learning English.
Right.
My speech teacher was giving a word, world. I couldn't say world, I would say word.
Right, that R sound,
yeah,
world.
I sort of enlarged that R sounds twice as long as it should be, and then make as if the L sounds. And then my teacher was saying, Bob Chaplin would say, how can I make you the L sounds longer? Mm-hmm. So he asked me to say, ooh. Mm-hmm. Somehow I wouldn't say, I would say, I was so afraid to prolong
keep the mouth open and right?
sounds. Then he said, well, you need to stretch your tongue longer, forward. Give me a cork. World.
I remember it was tiring for the mouth to have the cork. I remember we had a few laughs about it in the studio, you know.
Actually, a bunch of kids did great.
Yeah,
they're really good. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, and we're so glad to have you back again because I know ever since then you have just been so busy here in China. You know, we hear about you all the time. You know, you've been in plays, you're working on movies, you're working on TV series.
And teaching as well.
Yeah, and teaching as well. Yeah. And we're going to talk about all of these things. But last year, I know you just finished wrapping up a movie and a TV series.
Right.
Can you tell me about those projects?
The movie was talking about a bunch of Chinese scientists trying to find the minerals for Chinese agricultural industrial use. Because primarily Chinese, in many minerals, those elements were imported from foreign countries.
Okay.
But the story is based on true story. Bunch of Chinese, Shanghainese descent Chinese artists, scientists formed a delegation, went to the west, served in the mountains and waters and deserts, find stuff. It's really telling the professionalism story. But once you make that promise and commitment, you really fully go ahead without hesitation.
Right, there's a commitment there.
Right, and then...
but you said you filmed in the West.
Right.
The West is a very harsh climate. How did you prepare for that?
At the beginning I thought it was just going to California, you know, desert would be fine. And then when we got there, just really get into October and September, the wind started.
Oh, wow.
Every day we have makeup, you know, in the studio, in the trailer, finish makeup, and then walk in this location, come back, it's totally covered with the sand, the sandstorm. Beijing sandstorm in comparison is, I would say, 60% less.
Oh, you're kidding. Yeah, so you're covered in dust and sand.
Right.
Wow.
We have a cloth covering our mouth with the glasses, really sealed our eyes. And
but that's what it was like back then,
yeah,
too,
in the
right?
70s, 80s.
It's a true story,
true
right?
Story. And then we have to really make a cloth cover our shirt. Otherwise, evening comes back, almost like a half-pound of dust in your inside of your clothes.
That's what do you call it? That's worker hazard, right? Occupational hazard.
Exactly. That's why I really understood Middle Easterner, you know, people cover themselves. Otherwise, it's just too much.
Right.
Just,
yeah, you think it's going to be so hot, the sun's beating down on you, you want to wear less.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. That's why they wear so much the turban and all the clothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my.
That was fun. I ate a lot of lambs. And then when you go into the West, the vegetation's so, what they call have a base elements in those plants. And a lot of Beijing restaurant, they put lamb there. Now I come back to eat. It's like dry wood.
It doesn't taste right?
Yeah, it's so good. And people are so nice. And every time when we got there, each family, peasants, I mean, they're nomads with 50 to 300 sheep and moving with the vegetations, locations. And they were so nice, and the lack of water. When we got there, we gave some water to them. They were asked to stay, drink, eat, and singing songs every day. I was so happy.
Just so welcoming.
Yeah, welcome.
That's
people.
the most interesting thing, about your job too, because I know a lot of your different projects have taken you to so many different places throughout
China. That's the great thing about being a performing artist.
Right.
I think that's the most very attractive element for people to go in there. You meet different people, meet nice people, and go to see different sightseeing.
Right.
And then I just finished a TV series called Zhao Yulu, who was I would say, the lowest Chinese government official.
So the lowest level, right?
Yeah, lowest level. He's encountering with people from peasants, from vegetable growers and fruit pickers, and then he's dealing with this kind of people in the 60s. And I thought just one of the politicians' life. When I got to Langkao, each location I shoot gathered at least about 400 people from local. They all remembered him.
They remember him from the 60s.
Right, and their grandparents, and now they're the younger kid in the 90s, but the father would be in the 60s, 70s. They all came. I said, how do you know him? They said, my parents told me about them, and then brought me to the trees he planted, called the Tao Tong tree. That place also was deserted nearby the Yellow River. And then every summer or fall, when the water comes up, the bank of the river was all collapsed, and then water just rushed in, killed a lot of houses and people and the animals. And then Zhao Yulu was the first person thought plant trees. And then from 2 meters away, along the Yellow River bank, all the trees right now thicker than this table.
Wow.
5 people. It's like a redwoods park.
Right. You can you wrap your you
3
can't
people.
wrap your arms.
You
wow.
can, yeah. When there's 3 people to wrap them up. Your arm can hug it, and
it really made an impact in that community.
It's huge.
Right.
Even though they were still thinking that place is poor, but the person just so kind. He's helping a agricultural community to grow.
How long was that taping for? How long were you there?
Altogether, it's about, in that particular place in Henan, Langkao, which is Kaifeng district, Dichu, Kaifeng Dichu, we shot there for about almost 2 months.
Oh.
But evidently, he was a college, and I never thought that a generation of Chinese communist leaders were educated. He also graduated from Harbin 工业大学 Industrial College.
You're learning so much about history, Chinese history, as you do these roles. You seem to really enjoy these non-fictional, true story, these types of roles. Yes.
It's kind of funny. In the States for a while, play thugs, human traffickers, illegal criminals, club owners, the kind of out of the mainstream working and living people characters, which add a lot of
dramatized characters,
a lot of flavor characters
sure.
in the American TV and movie or stage productions. But coming back, I get a chance to play a lot. What do we say? Good guys that really dedicate his life and time, energies to the community.
Really good characters,
people.
right?
Yeah, good people.
Right.
It's like, Tom Hanks did the Castaway. Mike, the movie was like that kind of character in dealing with the natural disasters, surviving,
right?
And then
and going, persevering, and going forward,
to go back, continue. When he comes back, of course, he lost his wife, but he still remembered to deliver that piece of mail to the place he's supposed to.
All right, we're going to hear more stories from Wang Luoyong when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Crossover. Wang Luoyong, you were just telling us about these TV series and these movies that you just wrapped up, but there's something else that you've been working on these last few years, which is the play production of Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
That's totally different, right? It's a Chinese adaptation of course, the classic British novel by Charlotte Bronte. And you play Rochester.
Yes, luckily.
A grumpy man who, you know, falls in love with the young maid.
Right.
It's been many years that you've been quite a number.
This year is the 4th year.
It's the 4th year.
Yeah.
Why do you think this British novel is so successful here for the Chinese audiences? You've had a number of runs in Beijing, Shanghai,
Chongqing.
Wow.
Yeah, and this year probably will be adding more cities to go. You know, that movie, Jane Eyre, played by George Scott in the 70s. No, in the 80s, I would say. Yeah, 80s in China. My parents' generation, everybody was talking about that movie. Openly talking love.
Back then, nobody really talked about love, right?
In China, it was a, you know, house of matter. You know, house of matter. They would say, you like someone. That's the way they say it. When they say, I love someone, 我爱你,你是我唯一的爱. That's, people would say, you hear too much. You know, they were almost uncomfortable with it.
But do people don't really say that now? Or do they? The younger generation, maybe, yeah.
For the Valentine's Day, we just say,
the big bouquet of roses, right?
But realistically speaking, in China, people are still shy about it. And then really, you know, kind of a taboo. It's kind of bourgeoisie kind of a thing. You're talking about love. First thing you should love your country, love your party, you know.
Right.
But now people really looking back at that time, majority people are all read it. I would say this generation of politicians in China now all read Jane Eyre.
Right.
That book has a huge influence to the Chinese society. That's why at one time I bumped into George Scott when he was doing Inherit the Wind on Broadway. I was doing Miss Saigon. And I said, you know, in China, we all knew you are such a great, you know, actor who played Rochester in Jane Eyre. He said, oh, really? Do they like it? I said, yes, everybody loved it. He said, well, your Chinese audience is certainly better than the U.S. And I didn't know that sarcasm what I mean. Later on, I learned that Jane Eyre, that movie, didn't do well in America. But he was so, you know, funnily in a humor where they put that in the way say Chinese audience better than the U.S.
Right.
Surprisingly, young generations from after they were born 80s, 90s, they would say after 90, after 80s, were loving it. Whenever we went to the cities, you see the nice balanced age groups, young, middle-aged, older.
Well, I remember reading the book when I was in high school, and I loved it. Yeah. Maybe because that story is just so universal, the story of love and, you know,
Did you read it because of the school requirement?
It was a school requirement, right, in the U.S. It was a school requirement.
I know my daughter right now, she just finished reading it. I think it was last year before I entered college. And she read, she said, oh, you did it in Chinese? I'd love to see it. Well, come back to see it.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see how you would do it in Chinese. We
would be doing it again. Not a commercial. It's not making a promotion. But we're going to do it in May 28th, and then run till June 18th, probably, about 20 shows.
Well, how did you get yourself into character to play this very, you know, I mean, Rochester is a very strong character, right? He's this wealthy gentleman who had been, who has a lot of anguish, right?
Right.
I heard you didn't sleep well when you were preparing. You worked really hard to become this character.
Acting process, preparation to get into the character, it takes a lot of time, especially some character, age-wise, culture-wise, life experience, different from the actor. Sometimes we need to use imagination, to read a lot, you know. organically, physically, we have to find some connections. You're talking about when I was sick. That was right after Olympic finished. That was like dusty, windy time in Beijing. I got a very bad allergy, sneeze and cough for like 2 weeks. I couldn't really find a character. All of a sudden, one day, my voice came out. It was like, "How are you, Jane?" It's like difficult to pronounce to make that sound, produce that sound. I said, "Oh my goodness." He probably didn't sleep a lot. He drinks a lot. He totally running place to place, right. Bar to bar, woman to woman, you know, angry with the people. He disagree with him. He probably just burst out. He stay in his sandfield, not even 7 days. He just leave. So he's constantly moving. He probably have very bad digestion.
So it took a bout of your own sickness to get that voice.
Right. Suddenly I said, "Oh my goodness."
What did that voice sound like? Can you?
"Jane, come back, please." That's slightly hoarsely kind of voice. "So, you from which school?" So it's kind of funny. You're slightly getting back the kind of a horsey voice.
Right, a little bit of a...
And then after my cold is gone, so I found to be able to, I think I had kind of rock singer use that voice a lot. You know, sometimes using muscle instead of vocal cord to produce the kind of
do you find yourself practicing voices a lot in your free time? You know, when you're at home, you're in the car driving.
Yeah. Imitates
so what do? You know, you're practicing, or you say you're in the car, you're in the shower, you know.
Shower, we sing a lot because with the moisture, it's really nice. You feel good. You sing.
Oh, right, right, okay. Which song do you sing?
Mostly Broadway songs. Okay. I try to, cause after being away for 26 years. Hong Kong, Chinese, the new popular songs, I don't know how to sing it because there's not much melody in it.
Sure.
Know? And the old songs, they would say, "Oh," because that was 1985. Before 85, that song probably in China.
A lot changed, right?
A lot. So karaoke, you go in there, sing the old song. They say, "Oh my goodness, you sing the old songs, hard to find." They have to go kicking in the back of the drawer. And then the old songs, this is out of a shelf, and then I started singing some Broadway songs, and then majority of people don't know. They haven't seen it. Unless I sing Cat. They will say, "Oh, sing Memory." I said, "That's a girl's song, that's a female cat." Not, you know. And then, it's sometimes just sing some songs I like. But then during the time, I hear people talk, like today in makeup room. I really find out your makeup artist, Xiao Zhang. She has a slightly Hunan, and I didn't directly pinpoint say Hunan, but I say Hubei, Sichuan, Hunan, that areas. She would say 城市 instead of 城市. 城市, as I say, without a G in the back.
So you're always listening for these, like,
that's
these accents.
It's like
and then you practice them.
Right, 城市. 我练习, 练 it's okay, 练习 is okay. If 练习, you say American accent would say 练习.
Right.
Because 习 sounds in American pronunciation is not much. It would say 习.
Something that I can never do. All right, well, when we come back, we're going to hear more lessons from Mr. Wang Luoyong. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Up Close. Now, Wang Luoyong, I know that before you went to the States in the late 80s or mid-80s, but you were actually trained in China at the Shanghai Theater Academy.
Yeah.
And now you're going back to that academy as a professor. Tell me a little bit about that project. You know, I know teaching is always dear to your heart.
Shanghai Theater Academy has been there for 60 years now. When I was there, we were primarily trained as Shakespeare, using Shakespeare, Molière, Chekhov.
The classics.
Yeah, classics. And then using some Lao Tzu and Chao Yu, some Chinese writer stuff. And then after I went to the States, I really found the materials much broader, contemporary.
Much more variety, right?
A lot of the varieties. Samuel Beckett, Absurd Theaters, and even Tennessee Williams, all those great American writers, and then Pinter stuff. What happened is right now in majority Chinese theaters are dying, not doing much performance anymore. Movie, TVs are mostly money, bread earning asset for majority Chinese actors. So there's a huge herd of Chinese actors running into Beijing or a little bit in Shanghai, primarily in Beijing. Beijing is more like a Los Angeles right now.
Okay.
All the actors has to be here to try their luck.
But they're focusing more on movie and film.
TV,
right?
TV,
Right. TV,
well,
okay.
Because the TV somehow has commercial money, advertising money, pays better.
Sure.
So immediately they can get paid. TV networks got the advertising money and chip down a little piece to the TV series people. So then in the teaching now has become very kind of a naturalism, so-called naturalism. Really, how are you? 怎么样？今天回家吃饭了没有？ There's no voice training much anymore.
I see.
Even people trained there, they try to go into the natural, real feeling. It's really mumbling. And then the schools really open up, want to make a bridge with the Western theater companies to somehow to rebuild the theater communities here. Shanghai Theater Center, National Theater in Beijing, Beijing People's Art Theater, that's almost like a 3 major theater groups right now doing some theater works. But the other cities, like for instance in Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Sichuan, they're not doing much, or doing a little bit of Xiaopin, which is observing some characters, doing a little segments.
Because that
acting.
stage training is so different from movie and TV, right?
But not only that, because of the structure of the classical plays, that's had so much value actors need to understand. Because, for example, at the time people were doing it, say, oh, I just play this character. My mom doesn't want me to love this guy. And then my mom just control my life. And then the boy would say, yeah, my mom and his father, somehow they had a fight. And then for generations that. And then we're fighting. They were trying to do their things. I said, you know what? It's kind of funny. Go to read Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
Some kids would, oh, my God. I mean, this play is exactly talking about what we're doing. I mean, even in our TV series, the script logically is even not connected. And this one's so nice. It was, well, if you really sit down to read those classics, you will find values. And then I found the Guizhongyuan, Chinese Beijing opera or local opera production scripts are also good.
That's true. It's because some of the scripts, it's not about what you say, it's about what you don't say, right?
Right.
It's about...
And also, those classics has been really tested by centuries, by many generations. They're good because not because the famous people wrote it. It's really the truth.
Right. So there's a focus at Shanghai Theater Academy to be working on
classical stuff.
Okay.
And then that's why Broadway musicals.
So you'll be working on creating a musical theater program.
Professional training program. We have teachers from UK, from Australia, from America, even from Japan.
Right.
And now I've spotted a few good teachers now from South Korea.
Because I almost want to say 3 to 5 years ago, there actually was not a there wasn't a Broadway presence at all here in China.
No, now musical is bubbling.
Right.
Everybody's talking about.
And you're like, yay!
Yeah, Mamma Mia from the English version, then did the Chinese version. And now we just did one, I say way, because a wonderful company, it's called a Song Lei musical company. Li Dun is the company CEO. We just worked together on the new musical, so We Love Teresa. That's a Deng Lijun, 爱上邓丽君, the musical. Teresa was the most influential singers in Asia throughout the 80s. And they were making a joke. They say, Chiang Kai-shek tried to take over back China, spent all his life, didn't really make it happen.
Right.
But Deng Lijun is her song.
With her
3
song.
weeks, everybody was listening. That's why Deng Lijun's voice, her life story, her spirit, her singing philosophy, and then her attitude toward mankind is such a rare, good model for us to look up to.
As a musical, too. Perfect, right. So you're working on producing musicals here in China?
Directing.
Directing, okay. Okay, and will you act in them?
Not yet. I haven't found my good role yet, because I can force myself into Deng Lijun's production, but not the right one.
Right.
Because it's talking about the 90s, 80 or 90s, born after 90s, a young kid.
Okay.
He wants to become a musician, but he can't. He was so frustrated. And then he thought every producer's cultural administration people just hate him. And he thought there's a majority rejections and made him even more bitter.
Right.
And then Mom loves Teresa. He hates Teresa. He thought Teresa's time's gone.
So it's a young person. You need to find the right role for yourself, right?
Right. But then becoming a true artist through the help of Teresa in the spiritual world.
Right.
It's an interesting project. So my age or my...
Of course. You need to find something that would fit for you. But it's something that you want to do. You would like to do a Broadway play here in China. Because a lot of the Chinese have not been able to see you. You know, you are the first Chinese on Broadway. You did Miss Saigon for, what, 5 years?
6 years.
6 years, over 2,000 times. You were very celebrated for that. But people would love to see you in action on Broadway. Well, I guess not on Broadway, but in a Broadway production here in China.
Actually, you know, speaking of a Broadway new productions, I was cast to do Chinglish, which just closed on Broadway.
David Henry Huang's, right.
Because I was doing Jiao Yu Lu, the TV series. I was like, oh my goodness, I just signed a contract. And also, plus the Japan earthquake.
Sure.
So our locations has been moving back a lot of places, or delayed. I missed that chance, you know, but...
Would you like to go back to the U.S. to play Broadway?
Of course I would.
And I know your family is still there. You spend a lot of time
Southern
there.
California, yeah.
Okay, well, you know, it's an exciting time for you because you can straddle both the U.S. and China. You could bring them together.
Luckily,
so busy.
It just happened the right time, you know. I know majority of my American actors are sometimes still struggling to find jobs.
All right, well, Wang Luoyong, it's been so great to see you again.
Thank you.
I hope maybe we'll do a show again in 3 years.
Anytime.
And then you could tell us again everything that you've been working on. I'm sure there's going to be a huge list. But we're really looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the movie that's coming out, the TV series.
TV series will be out probably next month.
On CCTV?
Yeah, CCTV 1.
Yes. And then hopefully, you know, we'll see you in all of these different productions, as well as Jane Eyre this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to our viewers at home for tuning in with us. We'll see you next weekend on Up Close. Bye for now.